what's happening, guys? Following the previous discussion topic about Shailene Woodley, who might actually return as Mary Jane, let's talk about Mary Jane's role, her actual role in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, how she will be introduced, and the storyline with the symbiote, perhaps the inclusion of Venom as well, and overall how to probably introduce a new love interest for Peter Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. Now, my The Amazing Spider-Man 2 reaction video, one of the things I mentioned in this video is that it will be very tough to top the emotional impact we had by the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in future films in the franchise. I mean, the death of Gwen Stacy, it's a huge emotional impact, it's a wonderful scene actually, and overall it was done right, you know, despite some things which could have been better in the film, the death of Gwen Stacy was done right. Now, of course, Marc Webb confirmed that he will direct The Amazing Spider-Man 3, but he is not sure about the next installment, such as The Amazing Spider-Man 4 and The Amazing Spider-Man 5. He said that he might actually resign after The Amazing Spider-Man 3 because he wants to try something new and work on something else, but he will probably be still involved even in The Amazing Spider-Man 4 and as a consultant, and you know, it's his franchise, he established it, so definitely he will be somehow involved. Regardless, Marc Webb directing The Amazing Spider-Man 3, his task, one of the biggest missions basically, is to introduce Mary Jane's character properly. Now, of course, a couple of months ago, Andrew Garfield mentioned that The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will focus on Peter Parker's recovery. Basically, his recovery once again after the death of Gwen Stacy, how things are for him right now, you know, without his love, basically his love of his life, how is he doing without Gwen. Obviously he is suffering, he's depressed, he's not the Peter Parker he was before, he's a different type of person now, and it's all about his recovery. Now, this once again supports all the rumors about Spider-Man not really appearing in the Sinister Six or appearing in the Sinister Six, but he will have a very short role. You see, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is about Peter's recovery, so it jumps straight after the death of Gwen Stacy and he's still recovering. If the Sinister Six will be a movie not about Sinister Six, only also about Spider-Man, he would have recovered in the Sinister Six. I mean, why would he recover for 2 films straight, right? So pretty much the Sinister Six is a story which might involve Spider-Man, but it doesn't have to do a lot with Spider-Man. It's about the villains and Spider-Man on his own. Who knows, maybe somehow Sinister Six and The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will be actually happening at the same time, sort of like what Marvel did with their phases, you know, like the events are happening at the same time. That's why none of the other Avengers, their partners, are helping each other, you know, why Captain didn't help Iron Man in Iron Man 3, why none other Avengers helped him, why there were no Avengers in the Winter Soldier, you know, besides Captain and Black Widow, you know, stuff like that. Maybe that's how it will actually be. Spider-Man will deal with the symbiote, let's say in The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and Venom, and the Sinister Six storyline is something else, so both stories are happening at the same time. Maybe eventually in the Sinister Six, Spider-Man will pop up wearing his black suit and we will be like, hey, Peter has a black suit now, and then it will be actually explained in The Amazing Spider-Man 3 that the reason he appeared in the black suit fighting the Sinister Six is because the events were happening at the same time. So once again, getting back to Peter's recovery, as I said many times, right after the death of Gwen Stacy, in my opinion, it is the perfect time to introduce the Venom symbiote. Why is that? Well, you see, as I said, once again, Peter Parker is depressed, he's anxious, he's beaten up, he's not really Peter Parker he used to be. So introducing symbiote at that time is just perfect, because symbiote definitely requires somebody who maybe even possesses a certain level of, you know, anger, and Peter Parker is definitely a little bit mad, you know, that he couldn't save the love of his life, so symbiote could change him even worse. That's why The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is a perfect film to focus around the symbiote. Sinister Six, all the villains, done. Then we've got 2018 and it's The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and the symbiote, and Peter is introduced to the costume. Now, Mary Jane, how to introduce Mary Jane properly? It shouldn't be just a random girl, you know, supermodel who just appears in Peter's life and, well, she's cute, she's nice, and yeah, that type of a character. they need to make Mary Jane appealing to the audience, same as Gwen Stacy appealed to us in the previous two sequels. They need to make Mary Jane a very likable character. Now, in my opinion, in order to do that, they have to introduce a very strong female type of character, you know, a very strong character who's not just cute, who's not just nice to Peter, but who actually has her own characteristics and her own goals, life goals, and who's overall a very strong personality. Now, the way I see to introduce Mary Jane would be perfect if Spidey already has this symbiote suit. It's pretty much like Mary Jane falling in love with the Peter Parker, who's like all cocky, you know, and all the coolness, you know, and the symbiote made him slightly different, you know, and then she falls in love with this Peter Parker, and she actually helps Peter Parker to recover. In my opinion, the Amazing Spider-Man 3 should focus on basically Mary Jane versus the symbiote costume. By saying that, I don't mean Mary Jane fighting the symbiote, I mean that Peter will have to choose. There will be a choice theme between Mary Jane, you know, who fills his life now, who fulfilled the hole left after the death of Gwen Stacy, and the symbiote. And Mary Jane will play the crucial role in terms of how Peter will actually get rid of the symbiote. That's the way I can see, that's how it can work. If Mary Jane will convince Peter, if Mary Jane will do something on her own, hell, she can even tear up the suit herself, you know, if she will just help him to get rid of the symbiote, that's it. Besides a strong personality, the girl just helped our hero to get rid of something really nasty. That's Mary Jane, and she's established and she's very likable character. Gwen Stacy, obviously the love of Peter Parker, the love of his life, but Mary Jane will be something different, something even more. You know, a lot of people actually for so many years keep saying that Gwen Stacy is Peter Parker's true love. Now, in my opinion, it was always Mary Jane. Mary Jane was always there for Peter and for Spider-Man. Gwen Stacy, first true love, you know, first love, but let's be honest, her main role of Gwen Stacy in the comics always been the fact that she actually dies and it changes Peter Parker. For most of the following many years, it was Mary Jane who went through all this stuff that Peter Parker had to go through, and she was always there, always near him. So that's why I see even more potential for Mary Jane to be an even more likable female character in the Spider-Man franchise than Gwen Stacy used to be. I see Mary Jane as a perfect replacement for something even more, for a girl who will stay with Walt Waller for many future films and future installments, who will go with him through all of that, and their journey will start with Mary Jane helping Peter psychologically and maybe physically to get rid of the symbiote. And of course, there's also a Venom spin-off film which is rumored and probably will be released in 2017. It is also rumored that the film will be called Venom Carnage. Now, how it can play out, of course, there's no Venom without the symbiote suit, without Peter wearing the symbiote suit. Once again, I want to bring the fact that all these films might happen at the same time. Let's say the Sinister Six are dealing with their own bad guys problems, then there's a Venom spin-off film happening at the same time perhaps, and maybe The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Now, logically, I really don't see why a Venom spin-off film is released before The Amazing Spider-Man 3. But probably Peter Parker will make an appearance there. Somehow they can mess up with the timeline a little bit, and maybe they can sort this thing out so that Peter will get the symbiote and then there's a Venom. Or maybe they will completely change the origin story, they will go with a completely different road, and it will be that Eddie Brock wears the symbiote suit somehow there, which is very tough to imagine how the appearance of the symbiote before it was actually worn by Peter Parker. They could borrow many blood elements like they did before for many Venom adaptations, symbiote appearances. Maybe it will be something related to the anti-Venom. Maybe Eddie Brock isn't just doesn't really work for Daily Globe, he's not really a reporter. Maybe he's just a sick person who has a cancer, then he somehow gets the Venom suit, you know, the symbiote suit, and it helps him to cure cancer, you know, and maybe it's actually a cure which transforms you into a monster. Many possibilities there. Maybe Venom's appearance will have nothing to do with this Spidey suit with the huge white eyes, eye lenses. Maybe they will go completely different, and that's so how Peter Parker can get the symbiote after Venom. The symbiote, in my opinion, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 should be about the black costume, it should be about the symbiote, and it should be about Mary Jane Watson. Hell, even Venom can make an appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Venom did some really nasty things during his first appearances. He actually stalked Mary Jane in her own apartment, and he was messing with Peter's girlfriend big time there. I can see it work. What The Amazing Spider-Man 3 should focus, we should realize, is that it's theme of choice, and it's for Peter Parker to face another challenge, which is maybe even far worse than losing Gwen Stacy. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was about the losing somebody, a part, basically a part of your life, and still keeping moving on. Basically a theme of even superheroes can't stop time, you know. And The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is about the choice, what you really want to be. Do you want to be a hero, or do you want to be a menace? And Mary Jane will help him get rid of the symbiote, and that's when she will truly fall in love. I don't see her appearing just as a random girlfriend and there, boom, they have a relationship. I see that they will have a relationship once this girl will help Peter to get rid of the symbiote. Now tell me what you guys think down below. How do you think Mary Jane should be introduced in The Amazing Spider-Man 3? These are my thoughts, how I think things will play out. And do you agree with me that the events should take place at the same time? It makes sense, and for them to follow Marvel's road, and it makes sense how to establish everything and how to establish the Spidey cinematic universe they were trying to sustain. Thanks for watching, and I'm off for now.